Welcome to LIVEDAF, your online Daf Yomi Shiur.
Shalom and welcome back to today's Daf Yomi Shabbos Daf Pevav. We're at the Mishnah, 4 lines from the top. Says the Mishnah, Minayin lepoiletes shichva zera. We're speaking about a tumah of poiletes. We learn this from a pasuk that an isha who is poiletes, she expels the zera which she received from a ish. She is tamei. It's not because she actually touched the zera, but simply the act of being poilet, of emitting the zera, is regarded as a re'iyah. It's as though she is emitting her own zera, what she had already received. It became like hers, and now that she emits it, it is equated as similar to the ish who is moitzi zera, who becomes a balkari as a result. The ish as well, she becomes a tamei. She's called peilete shechva zera. It is a sort of balkari, balaskari. So she is tamei. But there's one condition here. The zera that she is peilet needs to still be viable. It needs to be called zera, roi lahazriya. It needs to be able to theoretically produce. Until that point, as long as the zera is still viable, then the issue is peilet, who emits that zera, becomes tamei. But as soon as it reaches a point where the zera is no longer considered viable, it is not considered shechva zera, and therefore she is not tamei when she is peilet, that zera. Now, for how long? For what period of time do we consider this zera to be viable? Says the Mishnah, Minayin lepoiletes shichva zera bayom hashlishi shehi tmeya. For 3 days following Tashmish, the zera is still called shichva zera, and she is tamei. How do we know that? We know that from the pasuk, which is describing the period of preparation prior to Kabbalah Satorah. Shenemar heyu nechonim lishloishes yamim al tikshu alisha. Moshe Rabbeinu is instructing Klal Yisrael, prepare yourself. 3 days before Kabbalah Satorah, you're meant to separate. Al tikshu alisha, you're meant to separate from your wives, so that the isha will have adequate time to have the zera within her expire, spoil, become unable to produce. It's not called shechva zera any longer, and at that point she'll be ready to be Mekabel Torah, because she'll be tired from any possibility of peilet. So once again, the 3-day period was required before Matan Torah to enable the nashim to be toivel after that 3-day period, and become tired, completely tired, and ready for Matan Torah. Let's take a look at Rashi here. Rashi, at the beginning of the Mishnah, which is 4 lines from the top, begins with the word shehi tmeya. Says Rashi, D'yoyim hashlishi akati le'imasrucha shechva zera. Meaning, we need 3 days, 3-day period of separation, because if she is poilet, even on the 3rd day, says Rashi, D'yoyim hashlishi, on the 3rd day, akati, still le'imasrucha shechva zera. The zera, the shechva zera, has not yet spoiled. Uru'uya likloit, it can still bring about, still can be conceived. Vlad noitzer hemeno, and to bring about a vlad to be produced from the zera. V'karina shechva zera haroi lazriya. We call it shechva zera, still has that status because it is roi to produce tibum azriya. So this takes place only after 3 days. For the first 3 days, the zera is still viable. Therefore, the Mishnah tells us if she is poiletes, she expels, she emits the zera from within her, even on the 3rd day, she becomes tamei. So where do we learn this from? The pasuk which says, "Heyu nechonim l'shleishes yamim." Continues Rashi, "Legimel yamin dehikpid hakasa." We see that the Torah was makpid, was particular about avoiding al tumas keri b'matan Torah. V'kasal kadaitach, some have the gears of v'kasavar, and we hold right now that the 3-day period, the 3-day separation period, the 3-day Yimei HaPrisha period begins im Yom HaPrisha Kamar. It begins with the day of Prisha. The Bedalad b'Shabbos, on Wednesday, Pirushu min Shosayim, they separated, V'kiblu Torah b'Shabbos, and they will Makabel Torah on Shabbos, which turns out to be the 4th day from the beginning of the Yimei HaPrisha, days of separation. Shiur Revi, which is the 4th day, Lo'isam Sheshim Shumitei Seyim B'Revi, for those who had relations on Wednesday, Lufnei HaPrisha. So Rashi is stressing to us that the 3-day period, the Yimei HaPrisha, begin even from that day itself that there was Tashmish, As we learn later, Rashi tells us, we apply the concept of miktsas hayoim kikulay. Even a partial day is regarded, is reckoned like an entire day. If one observes even a part of a day, it is regarded as Yom HaPrisha. So this pertains to the beginning of the account of the Yom HaPrisha. If he begins the account even midday after Tashriv, that's okay. That is reckoned as the first day of the Yom HaPrisha. So if they were perished on Wednesday, any time during the day, that's day number 1. Thursday is day number 2. Friday counts as day number 3. And now they're ready to be tovel after sundown on Friday. After Friday is over, v'tovelu leili Shabbos, they were tovel on Friday night. And they were ready to be Makabel Torah on Shabbos. Says Rashi, v'lo yichosh hakosef im nifloitu b'Shabbos. Apparently the Torah is not concerned about emitting on Shabbos itself after the Tefillah. The Masrach, because it spoils. It's not any more viable. Erev Shabbos b'shlishi. However, if they were pilot, if she was to emit her zera on Erev Shabbos, which is the third day of this count, she would be tamei. That's why the Torah instructed them to separate for 3 days, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, which is a 3-day Afrasha period, which ensures that the zera is no longer regarded as shechas zera. Now she can be toivel and be ready to be Kabbalah Torah. Let's get back to the Mishnah. So once again, she needs to separate for 3 days to ensure that she doesn't become tamei, this type of tumas keri, by being pilot the zera, which is roy lazriya. Now Taisus points out, although it was still prior to Matan Torah, so how do we learn from there halacha, which pertains today after Matan Torah? Says Taisus, certainly it was before Matan Torah, but apparently the Torah, when being particular about this topic, was apparently was being makpid about something which was indeed going to apply after Kabbalas HaTorah. So apparently the hakpeda of the Torah pertains to the future as well. Now Taisus points out as well that we don't find the Torah being makpid about other types of tumas, only particularly this type of tumah. Says Taisus, yes, that's true. As we find in the Gemara Brachas Daf Chabeis, that the concept of Baal Keri, this whole topic involves inevitably some sort of kalas roish, some sort of degree of lightheadedness, and therefore it's inappropriate. One needs to cleanse himself from this experience prior to approaching Matan Torah, because Torah requires Ema, Yira, Reses, Zia. The moment of Matan Torah was in an environment of excessive Ema, of Yira, of fear, of trepidation, having the utmost degree of sincerity, and therefore the Torah required them to be metar and mekadesh themselves. So therefore, they need to be free of this type of tumah. And in fact, the Gemara Brachas tells us that Ezra was masakin that one should clean himself from this tumah, from the keri, even when it comes to other times of Torah study. And the Gemara compares it to Matan Torah, that just as there it was a situation, a circumstance of an experience of Eiman Yira, so every Torah study also needs to have the same experience. That is discussed in the Gemara Brachas. Okay, continues the Mishnah. Minayin shemarchitzin esamila bayom hashlishi shecholias b'Shabbos. So this is a baby who had a bris milah and is in a situation of pikuach nefesh. He's weakened as a result of the milah. So one may indeed be mechal Shabbos to cook up some water for him on the third day. So how do we know that one can do so on the third day? Benayin shemarchitzin samila, to wash this child. Bayom hashlishi shecholias b'Shabbos, on the third day of his milah, meaning it's already 2 days after the milah. He had a milah on Sunday. This is already Tuesday, even if it falls out on Shabbos. Sorry, it was on Shabbos. So he had a milah on Thursday. Now it's Shabbos. So how do we know that you could do that? Shenemar v'hashlishi b'yosim koyavim. So this was in the time of the Shvatim. On the third day, after the people of Shechem had their milah on the third day, b'yosim koyavim, when they were in the state of pain, so Shimon and Levi went ahead and killed out all the people of Shechem. So Rashi learns that the Gemara, the Mishnah is speaking about even the third day. Rashi says, "M'nayin shemarchitzim the af b'yoyim shlishi mesukanu." The chiddush here is that even on the third day. Not only the first and second day is the child regarded as a mesukkan, even on the third day, which is already some time has passed from the Milah. Nevertheless, we see from the story of Shechem that even on the third day, there is a sakana, the person is in a state of weakness, and therefore the Mishnah tells us it could be Mechal Shabbos to warm up water for him. Actually, the Ran disagrees. He says that the point here is not even on the third day. The point is specifically on the third day. So day number 1, number 2, this halacha does not exist. Apparently, on the third day he's in an excessive state of weakness, and there's pekuach nefesh there. So according to the Ran, it's only the third day, and indeed we see that by Shechem, they waited for the third day to kill them out. Apparently that was the day where they're in a situation where their life is in danger on account of their milah. The Ran explains that apparently Rashi learns, why did they wait for the third day? If Rashi learns that day number 1 and 2 is also a situation of pikuach nefesh on account of weakness, so why did they wait till the third day? So he says, because on the third day they were in an extreme state of weakness. It's already the third day, so that was the most appropriate time. They were the most vulnerable at that point. Therefore, they took advantage of that day. But not to say that on day number 1, number 2, there's no pekuach nefesh. So according to Rashi, once again, the Mishnah is telling us, even on the third day, you can Mechal Shabbos. For the child, according to the Ran, it is specifically the third day. Continues the Mishnah, Menayin shekoishrin, Loshin shel zahiris. What do we know? Where's there a source for the custom where they used to tie this Loshin shel zahiris, this a strand of red fiber, red material, beroish sar mishtalech, on the head of this sar, this goat who used to be sent out, the sar mishtalech, sent out to the midbar, thrown down the mountain with the averis of Klal Yisrael. So he says tie in a red ribbon, and then after they used to toss him down the mountain, his ribbon used to whiten. That was an indication that Hashem was meichel, atoned for the averis of Klal Yisrael. Where do we find this concept? Shenemar, as it says in the pasuk in Yeshaya, if your averis will be red, like these shanim, like these strands, kashel yalbino, they'll whiten like snow. So we see the concept where the pasuk describes an avera with this stark redness, and will be turned into white through atonement, through kapara. Finally, says the Mishnah, Menayin l'sicha shehi k'shtiya b'yom kippurim. How do we know? Where do we find a source, a makar, that sicha, anointment, is equated with drinking, with regards to Yom Kippur? Just as we can't drink, we can't anoint ourselves. Now, as the Mepharshim speak out, certainly we're not trying to equate the two completely, because drinking involves an einish of kares, whereas sicha does not. Some say sicha is only with the rabbanon. So it's just an equation here. We're trying to find some sort of correlation between the two things. That anointment also has a value similar to drinking, even though it's an exterior application. Shenemar v'atovay chamayim b'kirbay v'chashemen be'atz moisav. This is a pasuk in Tehillim describing the klolas that will be applied to a descent on a rasha. So the klolas will come to him kemayim chamayim b'kirbay, like water in his innards, v'chashemen be'atzmoisav, and like oil into his bones. So we see that there's some sort of equation between drinking and anointment. And Tosfos points out that this is not really a raya. The Mishnah says afal bi she'ein raya lo davar. It's not really a raya. Why is this not a raya? It says Tosfos because the pasuk there is actually speaking about rechitza, bathing oneself. Nevertheless, there is some sort of correlation between an external application, the mayim reaching his extremities, to the shemen, the mayim reaching the extremities to the shemen being ingested. So even though the mayim there is regarding rechitza, nevertheless there is some sort of remes that the mayim, the drinking is like the anointment. So again, even though we're speaking about rechitza there, nevertheless there's sort of remes here that mayim, which is bekirbai, which is actually ingested inside the person, is equated somewhat to the shemen, which is anointed on the person. They're both regarded as being ingested into the body, even though the mayim is coming all the way inside, he's actually drinking it, and the shemen is merely being applied externally. Okay, so we have 4 concepts in our Mishnah. Number 1, they put like the shechva zera. She's tummy for 3 days, meaning the zera is still considered to be viable for 3 days following tashmish. We learned about washing the baby. We learned about the red strand, and finally that sich anointment is correlated somewhat to the concept of drinking. Continues the Gemara Reisha The beginning, the opening halach of the Mishnah, which tells us that how many days does the zera remain viable? How many days of separation are required? It is a separation of 3 days. It does not align with the Shita of Eliezer ben Azariah, who tells us that only 2 days of Prisha are required. The zera only lasts for 2 days and not 3. So the Reisha is incompatible. The loik of Eliezer ben Azariah. However, Seifa, the next halach which tells us that we're meant to wash this baby, this is following indeed Eliezer ben Azariah's Shita. As Rashi tells us, it's actually him. It's actually Eliezer ben Azariah who tells us the halach later on in Masechus Shabbos. Seifa from Eliezer ben Azariah. The Ik of Eliezer ben Azariah, because if the Reisha will be following his opinion, we heard that Eliezer ben Azariah is actually Mitayr on the 3rd day. He requires only 2 days of separation. He maintains that once we reach 2 days, on the 3rd day the zera is no longer viable, and she is Torah if she is Peilat that zera. So he seems to have some sort of inconsistency in the Mishnah. The first part of the Mishnah does not align with Eliezer ben Azariah, and the Seifa does. So we have 2 approaches how to reconcile this inconsistency. There's one approach which will say, well, okay, the Mishnah reflects 2 opinions, 2 Tanoi. There's an alternative approach which says, let's reinterpret the Mishnah to make it compatible entirely with Eliezer ben Azariah. So Rashi says it's actually a discussion in Maseches Bava Metzia, which approach we're meant to prefer. So the Gemara will adopt both approaches and explain the Mishnah accordingly. The school of thought which is not like to go ahead and split the Mishnah into 2 Tanaim, that it reflects 2 Shitas. So according to that Shita, according to that approach, how are we going to explain the Mishnah? Tana Reisha Torah, he will amend the first part of the Mishnah. Taisa says it was actually a girsa of another version. He will adopt the other version which says, Menaylo Pelete Shechvazera Bayom Eshlishi Shehi Tahira. So he will change the word from Tmei to Tahira, and indeed this fits with the Eliezer ben Azariah who holds that the Archaka is only required for 2 days. The Prisha of only 2 days is sufficient because the Zera only lasts for 2 days. So if she's Peilat, if she emits her Zera on the 3rd day, she's Tahira. Continues the Gemara. So he amends the word, he changes it from Tmei to Tahira. Umukila lekula Kerb Eliezer ben Azariah, and indeed he establishes the entire Mishnah like Eliezer ben Azariah. So this is one school of thought. Prefer amending the Girsa in order for it to be compatible with one Tana. Continues the Gemara. Uman de mukim ketanoi. But the other approach, which prefers interpreting the Mishnah as reflecting 2 separate Tanoim, without changing, without reinterpreting, just leave it as is, and split the Mishnah based on 2 man de Omrim. So indeed, according to this approach, Reish Rabbanon, the opening statement of the Mishnah, which requires 3 days of Prisha, reflects Rabbanon's Shita, who require 3 days of Prisha, as we will see soon. For Seifa, the latter part of the Mishnah, which discusses washing the cotton, Kerb Eliezer ben Azariah. Continues the Gemara, where do we find these opinions regarding the amount of days required for Prisha? Ton Rabban, we're going to Rabban. Peileta Shechva Zera, Bayam Shlishi Tahira, Divrei, Eliezer ben Azariah. So according to Eliezer, if she's put on the 3rd day, she's Tahira. Why? Because after 2 days, the Zera is no longer reckoned with. So according to him, how many days of separation are required? 2 days. Rabbi Shmuel says as follows. He holds that during prior to Matan Torah there were 3 days of separation. He holds that for 3 days the zera is still considered to be shichva zera, royal azriya, viable, and if she's pilot within those 3 days she is tummy. So once again, according to the first shita, the zera only lasts for 2 days. According to Rabbi Shmuel, the zera lasts for 3 days. Now, the Gemara will introduce us to a new concept called oina. Oinais. Rashi says an oina is either a yom, daylight period, for instance, a 12-hour period, it's not always so, but a daylight period, or oy laila, or the nighttime period, the dark period. So a yom is a full unit consisting of 2 oinais, a night and a day. An oina is a half a day. It's only either the daylight period or the nighttime period. Now, once again, we have 2 shitas here regarding the viability of the zera, regarding the tomb of Peiletes. According to the first shita of Eliezer ben Azariah, once 2 days have passed, even if she Peilet, she's Torah. According to Rabbi Shmuel, it's going to be 3 days. He requires 3 days of separation, meaning 3 days need to pass, need to be 3 days between the tashmish for the zera to expire, to spoil, and only after those 3 days, if she's spoiled, she's tar. Now, how many oinos are contained in that period? So, let's say according to Rabbi Shmuel, if we're speaking about 3 days, now as mentioned earlier, whenever we speak about days here, we apply a klal of miktsas hayom kikulei. Even a partial day. For instance, if the prisha, the separation only begins midday, we count that as the first day. If the tashmish took place on Wednesday, and there's still some time after the tashmish until nightfall, that is reckoned as day number 1. So all you need is another 2 days, Thursday and Friday, and the 3 days are over. So we apply the concept of miktsas hayom kikulei. Now, according to Bishmuel, how many days need to pass for the zera to be considered spoiled, no longer viable? 3 days. However, when we speak about yomim, we don't need 3 full days. Even 2 days and a little bit are reckoned as 3 days with the application of miktsas hayom kikulei. So even though you only have a little bit of the first day, that is regarded as day number 1, then you need another 2 complete days, complete units, each one containing a day and a night, to complete your 3 days. So now how many oinos are contained in 3 days? So it depends. If you choose to have 3 full days, in that case we have 6 oinos. 3 full days consists of 3 nights and 3 days. You have 6 oinos. If on the other side of things, you will suffice with merely 2 days and a little bit, for instance, if the tashmish took place close to the end of the first day, all you have is just a little bit left. You don't even have a full oiner any longer. So all you're going to have are 4 oinos, because you're going to have 2 full days following that little bit. So the following 2 days provide us with 4 complete oinos. So according to Rishmol, in short, it's somewhere between 4 and 6 oinos. And that's how the Brisa will describe it. The Rishmol Eimer, he requires 3 days for the zera to expire. And he says, sometimes those 3 days can merely consist of 4 oinos. Sometimes they end up being 5. Sometimes they end up being 6. If you count 3 full days. Continues the Brisa. Rabbi Kiva Omer, this is a third shita, he holds it doesn't depend on days. That is not the criteria. Rather, it depends on oinos. La'olam hey. It depends on 5 oinos. You need 5 complete oinos. And if you're missing part of the first one, let's say there was tashmish in the beginning of the day, and you only began the waiting period sometime middle of the day, you need to complete that. When you get to oina number 6, you need to complete it. You need to make up for your missing hours. So if a part of the first oina has already passed, you need to complete that. So when you complete your 5, you need to still go into the 6th one to complete your missing, the part of the missing oina, the first oina. So in summary, Rabbi Kiva holds, you need 5 complete oinas, and we have 3 shitas. Rabbi Lezer Nazari says, it is a 2-day period. Rabbi Shmuel says, a 3-day period. Rabbi Kiva says, it has nothing to do with days. It depends on oinas. How many oinas? 5 oinas. Continues the Gemara. What is the basis? What is the background for these various opinions? Amru Rabbanon, Kamed Rapapa. So the Rabbanon asked Rapapa, Va'amri, some say it was Rapapa L'Rava. Let's try to analyze these shittas. Now, apparently, they are based on the circumstance which was present prior to Kabbalas HaTorah. That is the source of this halacha, of how many days the zera is still considered to be viable with regard to Perleta Shechazera. So we must analyze the calendar, the process which happened at that point in history. So the Gemara will tell us a little bit later that there was actually a machlokes exactly how to configure the calendar at during those days prior to Kabbalas HaTorah. There's one shita which says the separation began on Wednesday. That is Shita's Rabbi Yosi. He holds it began on Wednesday, and since, as we said, Shabbos was the day of Matan Torah, all agreed that the Torah was given on Shabbos. So according to Rabbi Yosi, if the separation period began on Wednesday, this was meant to ensure that any zera deposited in the Isha will expire by the time Shabbos comes around, to enable it to be toivel, to be properly prepared for Matan Torah. So according to Rabbi Yossi, the Prisha begins on Wednesday. If so, we can calculate 3 days until Shabbos: Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Apparently, he, according to this approach, there were 3 days of Prisha, because the Zerah is still viable for 3 days. According to the Rabbanan, however, the Prisha only began on Thursday, giving us a mere 2 days until Shabbos. Apparently, they will hold that 2 days is sufficient to render the Zerah useless and spoiled, and that is sufficient time to allow for the Zerah to expire, and then after she can be toiva without any worries of peiletus. So we have 2 shitas brought later in the Gemara, and apparently, says the Gemara, the aforementioned opinions will be based on those shitas. The question of how many days to require, 3 days, 2 days, oinois, etc., that is dependent on the configuration of the calendar during those days prior to Kabbalas HaTorah. Let's see inside. Says Rabbi Shlomo, Rabbi Lezer ben Azariah, who holds that a mere 2 days are required. K'Rabbanan, he's following the opinion of the Rabbanan, the Amri, who say, Behei, Avid Prisha, on Thursday. He did Prisha, meaning Moshe Rabbeinu instructed them to be Parish on Thursday, to separate on Thursday, giving us a mere 2 days until the Tefillah, which was on Friday night. Rabbi Shmuel, who holds that 3 days are required. Rabbi Yossi, he is based on the Shita of Rabbi Yossi. The Amar Bedalid of it Prisha. It was on Wednesday when the Prisha began. If so, we deduct from there that we need 3 days. We conclude from there that a 3-day waiting period is required for the Zerah to expire: Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. El Rabbi Kiva, come on. Now Rabbi Kiva, who says his novel approach doesn't depend on days, it depends on oinois. Where do you get that from? In the pasuk, we only find a reference to days. You're meant to separate liyam shlishi. There's a reference to days, not to oinois. So where do you get that from? What is Rabbi Yossi's opinion? Rabbi Kiva's opinion, who says that it is 5 oinois, which is the determinant factor. Where do you get that from? Rabbi Kiva, indeed, he follows Rabbi Yossi's opinion that the Prisha, the separation period, began on Wednesday. He holds that it specifically began on Wednesday morning to enable them to have 5 oinois, 5 periods, from Wednesday morning until Friday night. So you have Wednesday, the entire day. Then you have Thursday and Friday, which are full days, which contain a total of another 4 oinois, for a total of 5. Now, how do we know that the Prisha began early Wednesday morning? Says the Gemara, Kuda Omar Rav Ada Barav. Moshe Bahashkama Allah. Moshe went up early in the morning to Har Sinai. Ubahashkama Yorat. He came down early as well. Bahashkama Allah. How do we know that he went up early? Dechsiv Vayashkem Moshe Ba'Boker Vayal Har Sinai. So you know he went up very early in the morning. Bahashkama Yorat. How do we know that he came down early as well? Dechsiv Leich Reid. Hashem instructs him, go down, V'olisa, and come back up. Ato v'Aaron imcha, together with Aaron. The Torah equates, connects going down with coming up. Leich reid ve'olisa. Makish yirid laliyah. The Torah connects, makes a heksha between descending from Har Sinai with laliyah, ascending, going up. Ma aliyah b'ashkam, just as we know, we just learned before by Ashkam Shabbaika, that he would go up very early in the morning. Af Yerida Bashkama. Likewise, the descent from Har Sinai took place early in the morning. So when he came down on Wednesday morning from Har Sinai, it was very early, and he went straight to instruct Klal Yisrael to separate from their wives, to begin those days of separation. He made Prisha, as it says, Vayered Moshe min ha'ar el ha'am. Rashi brings a pasuk. So he went directly from the mountain straight to instruct them to be purged. Now, why was that frenzy required here? Yes, it was required. You need to hurry up to tell them to be purged right away, early in the morning, from the beginning of daylight. So to enable them to have sufficient time, sufficient amount of oinois, these periods which are required for the Zerah to expire, to enable the Nashim to be toivel Friday night, to be adequately prepared for Matan Torah on Shabbos morning. So in summary, at this point in the Gemara, we have 3 shitas. We have Rav Lezer ben Azariah, who maintains 2 days are the required period for the Zerah to spoil, to expire, and as it took place we find by Matan Torah, that the Prisha took place 2 days before Matan Torah, to enable the Zerah to expire and the Isha to be toivel, to be prepared for Matan Torah. According to Shmuel, 3 days are required. He holds that the day of separation began on Wednesday, so it was Wednesday to Shabbos, which is a total of 3 days. Now, as far as Oynes, once again, according to Rebbe Azariah, so since it's only 2 days, 2 days can consist of either 2 full days, which would contain 4 Oynes, because again, Oyna means either a day period or a night period, so 2 full days would consist of 4 Oynes, or it can merely be 2 Oynes. Why? Because we need 2 days. 2 days means halachically 2 days. It could be even 1 day and a little bit. In that case, all you're going to have is 2 Oynes from that full day. So it's ranges from somewhere from 2 to 4 Oynes. According to Bishmol, it is a 3-day period which is required. A 3-day period can contain a range from either 4 to 6 Oynes. Because if it's a full day 3 period, yes, then we have a full 6 Oynes. Each day is 2 Oynes, so 3 days consists of 6 Oynes, but it could merely be 2 days plus a little bit, which also reckon like 3 days. In that case, you only have 4 Oynes contained in those 2 full days. So therefore, it's either from 4 to 6 Oynes. So these are the 2 shitas. Now we have Rabbi Kiva, who says the determinant factor is the Oynes. We need 5 Oynes. The Prisha began Wednesday morning and gave us 5 Oynes until Friday night, which was sufficient for the Isha to be toivel and to be prepared for Matan Torah. Continues the Gemara. Okay, so we just said that according to Rabbi Kiva, he rushed over to Klal Yisrael to inform them right away, be purish from the Isha. Says the Gemara, why is this relevant? What was the rush here to go tell them? In any case, they wouldn't be meshamish, they wouldn't have relations by day. It's inappropriate. Va'amar Rav Huna, Yisrael kedoshim heim. Klal Yisrael are sanctified the nation. They don't engage in this activity, it's inappropriate, it can bring a person to gaze inappropriately. So what was the concern? Why couldn't he just take his time? He can tell them sometime throughout Wednesday, because in any case they were separated on Wednesday during daylight time. Says the Gemara, no, but there are some allowances. If it was a darkened room, then tashmish is allowed even during the day. Talmud Chacham, Mapil B'talisa, he can darken even using his talis, his cloak, umutter, and have tashmish. So we do find some variations, some cases where there is an allowance for tashmish by day. Therefore, he needed to rush down and tell them to separate right Wednesday morning, immediately in the beginning of daylight, so they have that full oina to reckon as the first of their 5 oinas required. Continues the Gemara. V'hat v'lo yaynenu. Now, we're working with a presumption here that the Yimei Prisha, those days of separation prior to Matan Torah, concluded Friday night, and then the women went to the mikvah to be toivel in preparation for Kabbalas HaTorah, which was Shabbos in the morning. Says the Gemara, it's inconceivable. It seems to be illogical that the Torah would be given to Tvulei Yom. So if one who is Tamei through this tomb of Baal Keri, he needs to undergo a 2-phase cleansing process. Number 1, to be toivel, to immerse in the mikvah. Number 2, Erev Shemesh. The day needs to, the sun needs to set. Darkness needs to arrive. Erev Shemesh. If so, these women who really toivel on Friday night, so they had the tefillah, surely, but there was no Erev Shemesh yet until Matzah Shabbos. How can you suggest that the Torah was given to a Tvul Yom, which is considered to be still partially tamei? It cannot eat truma or kachim. So apparently the Gemara says, that wasn't the story. The sequence of events was that they began their Prisha, but then they were toivel on Friday to allow for Erev Shemesh when sunset arrived Friday night. And this way they were completely tor in preparation for Torah Shabbos morning. And if that was the case, if they were toivel Friday, then you're missing some time of your cheshbon, of your calculation. You're working with a calculation which begins either from Wednesday or Thursday and concludes Friday night. You need all those days, all those time periods to reckon for your Yimei Prisha, for the Zera to expire. Each Shita according to his opinion. But if they were toivel Friday, you're going to be missing some time. You're going to be missing a day. You're going to be missing all that time. Once again, says the Gemara, V'tfula Yom Ninu. If you maintain that the tefillah took place Friday night, which will result in them being Mekabel Torah in a state of Tvul Yom, it's inconceivable. It's more logical to say that they were toivel on Friday. And if so, this proves to us that we don't need such a long period, a long Yimei Achaka, a long Yimei Prisha, such a long time period to elapse for the Zera to expire. Apparently, a much shorter period is sufficient. Because if they were toivel Friday, without any concern of after tefillah being poiled that zera. Apparently that zera is no longer matame. It's no longer viable. So how does this fit? How is this compatible with our Bryce earlier, which gives us these time periods, which take into account the tefillah Friday night? If that wasn't so, then it won't work. Answers the Gemara. Abaye bar Avin, Rav Chanina bar Avin, they both said, there's no concern. Nitna Torah l'tful yom. The Torah was given to Tful Yom. There's no requirement to have hair of shemesh. Even a Tful Yom can be matabel Torah, and therefore, indeed, they very well were toivel Friday night after the conclusion of the entire period of Yimei Hachak, Yimei Prisha, and they were Tful Yom. There's no concern. I want to say a beautiful pshat. What is the message here? Torah was given to Tful Yom. As the Gemara will say, there's no objection to give the Torah to Tful Yom, even though in actuality it didn't happen. The Gemara will say soon. But the point here is a message of inspiration for all of us. So I once heard a beautiful pshat that the tahara process of a tamei is two-phased. First, you need the tefillah, which is the personal effort. It needs to be immersed in the mikveh. And number two, which is the second phase, the hair of shemesh, the sunset, which is not something within our control, not something that the person himself does. Rather, that's something completed by Hashem from above. So this indeed represents the two-phase, two-pronged process of our experience in this world, of our pursuit for shleimus, for perfection. We have the personal exertion, the personal shtadlus, our personal effort based on our own abilities, our limited abilities, our tefillah, so to speak. That's the first stage. Then Hashem completes that. The pasuk in Tehillim says, "Lokel gomer le." Hashem completes that. He infuses our efforts with an additional measure of success, of tahara, of kedusha, of hatzlacha. So we're meant to do our part, each one according to his abilities, according to his talents, his exertion, his efforts. That is required. That limited, the shtalis is required. Then Hashem completes it. So the message here is that the Torah was given to Tful Yom. They merely completed only that first phase of tahara. They went to the mikveh. They did theirs. Hashem goes and completes that with his Torah, with his kedusha, with his tahara that descends from above on that person that does his little bit. All a person needs to do, a person needs just to give what he got. He needs to give what he has, and no more than that. He makes his effort, makes his shtalis. That's enough. So the Torah was given to Tful Yom. Perhaps this is the message here, the message of inspiration to the Yid. You need to give what you have, and Hashem will complete it. Okay, so in any case, this is the conclusion of the Gemara at this point. There's no concern of being toivel Friday night, but the Torah was given, even to Tful Yom. The Tumah of Tful Yom only pertains to Truma, to Kachim, but when it came to Torah, there's no concern. Continues the Gemara. Yosef Marema, V'kama l'lashmait. So Yosef Marema was sitting and he said over this chiddush that the Torah was given to Tful Yom. Amalei Ravina Marema. Did you mean literally nitno kamers, that was actually given to Tful Yom? So they only immersed Friday night and they were in a state of Tful Yom when the Torah was actually given? Oyru uya kamers. Do you mean to say that the Torah was able theoretically to be given to Tful Yom? It was suitable for Tful Yom, even though in practicality, in actuality, in reality it didn't happen. As Rashi explains, they took the chance. They would toivel Friday, hoping that there would be no expulsion of zera, no plate of zera. So if there would be a plate of zera, an emitting of zera certainly should be tamei because it's still within that waiting period. But they took the chance. They banked on the hope that there would be no more expulsion of zera. They would toivel on Friday, and they had their hair of shemesh Friday night. So they completed the tahara. They were no longer regarded as Tful Yom. When Shabbos came along, when Shabbos morning came along, and when the Torah was given. So what do you mean to say? Do you mean to say that in reality they were Tful Yom because they were only toivel Friday night and they were at a state of Tful Yom? Or perhaps they were toivel Friday and they had the hair of shemesh, hoping that there would be no zera emission on Friday. And in fact, that's what happened. They remained tar. Their gamble paid off, and they remained tar. They had the tefillah, their shemesh, by the time Matan Torah came along. So once again, nitna kamers, do you mean to say that was actually given, the Torah was given to Tful Yom, because they were toivel Friday night? Or you mean to say that there's no objection for the Torah to be given to Tful Yom, but in actuality, in reality, it didn't happen? Amar Leisi said, Ru'uya kamina. I merely meant to say that there's no objection. It was fitting, it was suitable to be given to Tful Yom, but nevertheless, they were really Tovel on Friday, and in reality, they were not Tful Yom. Continues the Gemara. V'litfilu b'nei shimshi. Why could they not have been Tovel Friday night? V'likablu Torah b'nei shimshi. So Rashi explains this is the Kasha of Rakiva, who tells us that from Wednesday morning until Friday night, there is a time period which consists of 5 oinits, which is the required amount of oinits for the zera to expire. Says the Gemara, if that's the case, they would Tovel Friday night because that was the conclusion of the 5 oinits. Why wasn't the Torah given right then and there? Why did Hashem wait for the next morning? Perhaps we can conclude from here that 5 oinits are not sufficient. We actually need 6 oinits. Therefore, they needed that additional night, that Friday night, to complete those 6 oinits. This is the Kasha on Rekiba tells us that merely 5 oinits are sufficient. Why couldn't they be Tovel Friday night? And they be Mekabel Torah right then and there at night. Hashem says, I didn't speak initially, meaning I didn't give the Torah Baseiser, concealed and in darkness at night. I wanted it to be known, revealed to all in the middle of the day. Actually, in the beginning of the day, but during daylight, as Mashal says, the Goyim shouldn't be able to complain and say, well, we didn't know, it was hidden from us. No, Hashem did it out in public, in the daylight period. Hashem wanted specifically to give the Torah Shabbos morning, and that was the reason why He delayed until the next morning. Says the Gemara, "V'lit bit safra the Shabbata." Now, the Gemara is going to ask like this: according to Rekiva, that the reason why the Prisha began on Wednesday morning to give us a period of 5 oinos till Friday night. Says the Gemara, why did they have to begin their Prisha? Why did Moshe Rabbeinu have to rush down to instruct them to begin their waiting period right in the morning, Wednesday morning? Why can't they simply start their separation period any time on Wednesday? Since in any case, the Torah wasn't given until Shabbos morning, which will leave us adequate time to complete our 5 oinos. So even if the count only begins Wednesday night, you have a full 5 oinos until Shabbos morning. You have the full Thursday, 2 oinos, full Friday, 2 oinos, and you have Friday night, which is a full oina, for a total of 5 oinos. Says the Gemara, why could they be told Shabbos morning, after the conclusion of the 5 oinos, and be Makabel Torah right then and there? Says the Gemara, there's a problem with that. That won't work. The reason why that couldn't happen is because we're going to have a peculiar situation where some Yidden are going to be Makabel Torah, but others that need to be Tovel, they're going to be Tovel. As Tosfos points out, Hashem would have to delay giving the Torah until everyone's prepared and ready. Torah is meant to be given to all Klal Yisrael as one unit. This wouldn't work. Therefore, they need to be Tovel Friday night, and the Prisha need to begin Wednesday morning to allow for 5 oinos. Continues the Gemara, Omar Rav Chia bar Rabbi Abba, Omar Rav Yechon, Zu Divrei, Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Akiva. So we have various opinions regarding the duration of the viability of the Zera. 2 days. We had Rabbi Elazar says 2 days, Rabbi Shmuel says 3 days, Rabbi Akiva says 5 oinos. Aval Chachamim Oimrim, we have a 4th sheet coming up. Sheish oinos shleimois binan. We need 6 full oinos. So according to Rabbanon, the separation began Wednesday morning and continued up until Shabbos morning. And that is the reason why the Torah was given Shabbos morning, to allow for 6 oinos to take place. So in conclusion, we have 4 shitas now. Rabbi Elazar says 2 days are required. Rabbi Shmuel says 3 days. Rabbi Akiva says 5 oinos. And the Chachamim maintain 6 oinos, beginning from Wednesday morning up until stretching till Shabbos morning. Continues the Gemara. Omar Rav Chisda, Machlokes, this whole discussion is only with regard to Zera Shepirsha Min Isha, the seed which was expelled from the Isha. So since it was within the Isha, it only lasts a certain amount of time. Aval Persha Min Ish, but if the Zera was emitted directly from the man, never entered the Isha, then we have a different criterion. It doesn't depend on these 2 days or 3 days oines. We have a different yardstick. Tmeya kol zman shehilacha. So the Zera is tamei. If one touches the Zera is metame as long as it's still moist. So perhaps it's less than 3 days, perhaps more than 3 days. It depends on the condition of the zera, as long as it's still moist. Mosar of Sheshes. How can you say that? The pasuk says, "V'chol beged, v'chol oir," a material, a beged or oir, leather, asher yiel of shechazer. So the zera will be present on this item. It is metame, the article, and the pasuk uses the term shichva zera. This zera is something which can still produce, reproduce. Prat, we exclude the shechazera sheisruch. We want to exclude zera, which is spoiled and not viable. So the fact that the Bryce here doesn't make any mention of moist or dry, apparently it doesn't depend on that. It depends on the condition of the zera, how viable it is, if it's spoiled or not. So perhaps even if it's, we see from here that even if it's still moist, it's lacha. It's no longer metame, since it's considered to be srucha, spoiled. So it's obvious in this Bryce that lacha is not the criterion. Rather, it is the condition, the health of this seed, of the zera, whether or not it's viable, whether or not it's srucha. Says the Gemara, my love, shepir ish. Are we not speaking about zera which was emitted directly from the ish? Loi, shepir isha. We're speaking about zera which was expelled from the isha, and indeed, in that case, the determinant factor is whether it is saruch or not, spoiled or not, and that depends on the parameters which were presented earlier, the shiurim prescribed by those shittas. Says the Gemara, Boirav Papa, Shichva zera shal Yisrael b'mei kusis mau. We learned about zera within the body of an isha. What about a non-Jewish woman? So the zera of a Yisrael, which was deposited into the innards of a kusis, does she also work with the same prescribed shiurim, 2 days, 3 days? Or do we say that the zera perhaps lasts longer in that environment? Why? Why should we draw that distinction? Says the Gemara, what is the halach? Yisrael the digba mitzvahs. Perhaps Klal Yisrael, a yid who is anxious, passionate about mitzvahs. The igi literally means worried. He's passionate, he's anxious about proper fulfillment of mitzvahs. In this case, chavel gufayu, their bodies are warmed up, are heated up, and therefore the zera in the womb of a Yisraelis won't last so long, because the heat affects the viability of the zera and expires after those prescribed periods. So again, what's the halacha of shechazera sheYisrael may kusis ma? What is the halacha? Do we say Yisrael the digu mitzvahs chavel gufayu, their bodies warm up, therefore they are given those periods? Akum the like digu mitzvahs, but a guy who they're not passionate about mitzvahs, they don't have this experience. Loi, perhaps in their case, the body doesn't warm up to the same extent, and the zera can last longer. Oidilmo, perhaps, given the achlan shkotzim or Muslim, since they consume these non-kosher creatures, as a result of that as well, chavel gufayu, their bodies warm up. As the Rashbam says in Chumash, that these non-kosher foods, they affect the person's health, they heat him up. So instead of the igi mitzvahs, the lahavdil on the other side of the coin, they're involved in shkotzim or Muslim. That too affects the temperature of their body, and therefore we will apply those same shiurim to the zera in the me'eh of a non-Jew. So if you propose, given the achal shkotzim or Muslim chavel gufayu, indeed it has a similar effect. What about in the womb of a behema? What about this type of zera, which is in the behema? Do we also apply the same shiur? Do we say the zera expires after 2 days, after 3 days? Says the more, perhaps we can draw a distinction. Isha the isla prazdar, a woman who has a corridor, a canal, masrachas. This prevents the air from entering, and it generates warmth, so it causes the izgoyim that the zera spoils. Avo behema the lesla prazdar, but a behema does not have this phenomenon, doesn't have this corridor, this vaginal canal. Loi, perhaps in that case the zera lasts longer. Oidilma, perhaps leishna, there's no difference, and we apply the same prescribed shiurim to all cases. Take it, we'll leave it unresolved. So in summary, this discussion only applies to an isha, zera which was emitted from an isha. The zera emitted directly from ish never entered an isha. In that case, the Gemara tells us the criterion is the moisture. As long as it's lacha, it's still regarded as royal, as real, viable, and is metami. What about coming from a nachris, which is they're not daig b'mitzvahs, not worried about mitzvahs? What about inside a behema, which does not have a prazdar? We're unsure, and we leave it unresolved. Continues the Gemara. So we discussed earlier various opinions regarding the required amount of time needs to elapse for the zera to expire, to spoil. It's either 2 days, 3 days, etc. And we said it is based on the circumstances surrounding Kabbalas HaTorah, whether the days of separation, the Mid Prisha, began on Wednesday, thus leaving us with 3 days of separation until Shabbos, or it began merely on Thursday, leaving us with merely 2 days to Shabbos. So here is going to be the presentation of those two shittas. Tana Rabbanan, B'Shisha b'Chodesh nitna Aseres HaDibros. So the Aseres HaDibros, the Torah, was given on the 6th day of Sivan. B'Shisha b'Chodesh nitnu Aseres HaDibros l'Yisrael. Rabbi Yossi Yomer b'Shiva Boy. It was actually on the 7th day of Sivan. Amar Rava. Let me analyze these words. We have a Tanakama tells us Matan Torah was on the 6th of Sivan. Rabbi Yossi says the 7th day of Sivan. Amar Rava. The Kuli Alma all agree B'Rosh Chodesh Oslo Midbar Sinai. That when did they come to Midbar Sinai? On Rosh Chodesh. So this is a fact accepted by all. Ksiv Hacha. How do we know this? Because the pasuk says over here, B'Yoyim Hazeh, on this day, Bo Midbar Sinai. Uksiv Hasam, the pasuk elsewhere says, HaChodesh Hazeh Lachem Rosh Chodashim. So we draw that connection of Gzeir Shava between the words Hazeh in this context and the Hazeh presented over there. Mala Halam Rosh Chodesh, just as there, it is regarding Rosh Chodesh. HaChodesh Hazeh Lachem Rosh Chodashim. So it was on Rosh Chodesh. Av Kan Rosh Chodesh. Just like the pasuk there was actually said on Rosh Chodesh, and the pasuk tells us, HaChodesh Hazeh Lachem, this Chodesh, this month of Nisan, is Rosh Chodashim. It is the head of the sequence of all the months. It is the first month in the list of months, but it was actually on Rosh Chodesh as well. Afkan Rosh Chodesh. Here too. B'Yoyim Hazeh, when did they come to Midbar Sinai? On Rosh Chodesh. So this is a fact accepted by all. They arrived on Rosh Chodesh. Number 2 accepted by all is the Kuli Alma. All agree by Shabbos. Nitn Torah Yisrael. The Shabbos was the day that the Torah was given to Klal Yisrael. Maral says Torah is transcends nature, is a higher spirit, a experience which is supernatural, a supernatural entity, and it is very befitting that it should be given on Shabbos, which also transcends nature. We're meant to refrain from doing malacha, from doing work. It is a supernatural day. So those two fit together. So all agree that the Torah was given on Shabbos. How do we know? Ksiv Hacha. Because by the Aseres HaDibros it says Zochar Sema Shabbos L'Katcha. Uksiv Hasam, and elsewhere on the day that they left Mitzrayim, Vayoyim Moshe Lam Zochar, remember, as Hayoyim Hazeh, this day. Mala'al, just like there, when he tells them, remember this day, it was actually on that day they were leaving Mitzrayim. Mala'al, B'yitzuma Shel Yoyim, he was relating to the same day. Afkan, here too, when it says Zochar Esiyam Shabbos L'Kashi, one of the Aseres HaDibros, it is referring to today. Remember today to sanctify it. Afkan B'yitzuma Shel Yoyim, it is related to the actual day that is being set on. Therefore, we know that Matan Torah was on Shabbos. So we know they arrived on Rosh Chodesh. We know Kabbalas HaTorah was on Shabbos. Ki pligi. What then is the point of contention? B'kviyah diyarcha. We're unsure of when Rosh Chodesh fell out. What day of the week was Rosh Chodesh? Rabbi Yossi Savar b'chad b'Shabbat yikuyarcha. Rosh Chodesh was on Sunday. U'b'chad b'Shabbat lo ermelu v'lo midi. On Sunday, he didn't want to trouble, burden Klal Yisrael. They came from their trip, mishum chosha de'urcha, due to weakness on account of their arrival from their trip, from their journey. So the chosha de'urcha, the weakness of the journey, was a reason for Moshe to refrain from instructing them any mitzvahs. So that day was a clear day. So they arrived on Sunday. That day there was no mitzvahs. B'trei b'Shabbat, on Monday, the following day, Amalu, he told them, V'atem tiyuli, ma'amlechas kehanim. Hashem sent a message through Moshe, I want you to be for me a mamlechas kehanim, a kingship of kehanim, of priests. This took place on Monday. What happened on Tuesday? B'tlasa, Amalu mitzvah bala. He instructed them to draw this boundary around Har Sinai. Ba'arba, on the following day on Wednesday, Avad Prisha. That's where Moshe Rabbeinu instructed them to do Prisha, and indeed, they began their separation on Wednesday. So according to Rabbi Yossi, Rosh Chodesh was on Sunday, the Prisha was on Wednesday. Rabbanan Savri, B'trei b'Shabbat yikuyarcha. Rosh Chodesh was established on Monday, so Rosh Chodesh Sivan was on Monday. B'trei b'Shabbat lo ya'amalu v'lo midi. On Monday, he didn't instruct them any tzivuyim mishum chol shad due to the weakness. But Lasa, on the following day, which was Tuesday, Amalu v'atem tiyuli manchas kohanim. And on the following day, Ba'arba, on Wednesday, Amalu mitzvah bala. He meant to make a boundary around the mountain. And finally, Behei, on Thursday, Avad Prisha, they did their separation, they began the Yemei Chak. So in summary, according to all Shittas, Rosh Chodesh was the day they arrived. Shabbos was the day of Matan Torah. Rabbi Yossi says Rosh Chodesh was on Sunday. leading us to make the calculation that Prisha was on Wednesday. According to Rabbanan, Rosh Chodesh was on Monday, resulting in the Prisha taking place on Thursday. Okay, time for a brief review of today's daf. We began with the halacha of Peiletes Shivcha Zera. So if an Isha emits, expels Zera she received from the man, if it's within the viability period, she becomes Tameh. What is that period? How long is that period of viability of the Zera? We have 4 shitas. According to Elazar and Azariah, it is 2 days. According to Ishmael, 3 days. According to Rekiva, 5 oines. According to Chacham, 6 oines. The Gemara tells us that these shitas depend on other shitas. Elazar and Azariah says 2 oines, it is because he holds that the Yemei Prisha began on Thursday. According to Ishmael, he maintains it began on Wednesday. According to Rekiva and the Chacham as well, it began on Wednesday. And the Gemara concludes indeed with this machlekes between Rav Yosef and Rabbanan. What day of the week Rosh Chodesh fell on Sunday or Monday. And based on that, the Yom Prisha was either on Wednesday or on Thursday. And indeed, this machlekes of whether Prisha began on Wednesday or Thursday forms the basis of the previous machlekes.